think one way to understand what we're doing is to hark back to the 1950s, because at that time the essence of rape was the use of force, physical force, and the law was very clear that there had to be physical force. And to complicate it further, the law basically said that it had to be aberrational physical, not just some physical use of muscles and body, but something that was aberrational, brutal. And one of the reasons for that is that the sex act itself is a physical act. There is physical force involved, even in the most consensual relationships. So the law was tied to this idea of nothing other than aberrational physical force would constitute rape. That is no longer a tolerable situation. And it's become clear over this period that the essence of rape is the absence of consent. So the law has to move. It has to take that step. But once you take that step, it opens up an enormous range of issues that are unavoidable. Because if the essence of the offense is consent, then what is consent? What circumstances constitute consent? What circumstances invalidate or render the consent ineffective, whether it be alcohol, drugs, mental capacity, whether it's some kinds of situational pressures, threats, abuse of authority, abuse of trust. There's an enormous range of issues. The core idea is that everybody would say there should be genuine, authentic, freely given consent. But what does that mean when you talk about situational pressures or abuse of authority? All of those issues have to be addressed.
So our code attempts to cover a wide range of sexual behavior. And the expectation you might have about seeking consent or permission before engaging in that behavior with a total stranger is and should be different than your spouse. You don't wake up in the morning and ask your spouse, can I kiss you good morning? Whereas you wouldn't walk up to somebody in a Target and kiss them. And so we know in our world that there are differences between the kind of consent relationship that you have when you're engaged in ongoing sexual intimacy with another person and what you have at the beginning of a relationship or with a total stranger. But capturing those ideas in law is very difficult. It is very hard to do that, especially when you recognize that domestic violence is a real concern and that sexual violence is an important component of domestic violence that has to be reckoned with. And so trying to, again, balance those two concerns to ensure that we protect the freedom you have in an intimate relationship to kiss your spouse without worrying about criminal liability, while also making sure that people who are in those more tenuous relationships or situations are adequately protected against opportunism or sexual violence from their partners.